Almost there. Hey everyone, welcome back to Be Not Afraid. Today I'm so excited to speak with another refugee. He is a friend of Selomun, who I interviewed a while ago with the podcast, the episode that says No Longer a Slave. Solomon, that's how you say his name, is from Ethiopia. So I'm really excited to have him on and to hear his story. So I hope you guys will join us. Thank you so much. Welcome, Solomon.
Thank you for having me.
So just tell me your story. You reached out because you saw our podcast that had multiple different immigrants who are glad to be here. And I like to highlight those stories because I do believe that America is a city on a hill. It may not be perfect, but I think that when people have a perspective of where you come from, it changes their hearts, I would hope. So tell me about Ethiopia, because as Americans, we don't hear a whole lot about it.
Yes, Ethiopia is located on the eastern part of Africa, and specifically we call it Horn Africa because it's a kind of horn. Geographically is very close to Middle East, Europe, Asia, because we have a Red Sea, and Eritrea has controlled the Red Sea. We are we've been the same country like 34 years ago, and now Eritrea controls the Red Sea. And in Horn Africa, we have 7 nations. We have Eritrea, Sudan, Egypt, Uganda, Kenya, Somalia, all this Horn Africa. So geographical, we locate in this place, and we are very close to Middle East, as I said. And even with Israel, we have in Ethiopia, especially in Eritrea and Ethiopia, we have the same kind of philosophy or Judeo-Christian civilization with Israel, with Europe. That's why we are very related, even in cultures.
So are you allowed to practice your religion in Ethiopia? Or is
Yes.
it okay? So it's not like Eritrea where you really have to hide if you're a Christian or anything like that, right?
Yes, in Eritrea specifically because almost 30 years we have one government, one regime. Is he just learned some school in China. That's during Mao regime, and he's a communist government and does not allow like yes, we have Christians, we call it Orthodox Christians, Coptic, like Egypt. But
Okay,
other
yes.
than other Christians, like we have Christians here, evangelicals or Methodist, Adventist, everything. And they call them, the government say they are a threat to the nation because
They are a what
from
to the nation?
a threat, like existential threat for the nation because he has ideologies. Yes.
Kind of like how today conservative Christians in America are considered a threat to democracy.
Perfect.
Wow.
So he aligned with Zionist kind of imperial world, a kind of. So he aligned himself with communists. Even we don't have real communists now. We have some flavor you can see in China, but China is now economically is not communist at all. But historically, we know is a communist government. And in Eritrea, the government trying to raise the culture, the religion, and always say America is an enemy for us because they send this culture, this religion to us. So we cannot allow this ideology. But that's not the real problem, is because if we are align ourselves with America, he knows that it's a threat for him, for his power. It's not because of religion, it's not because something bad for the nation. We have been we have been practicing the same like Christianity almost 2,000 years. We have the oldest Christianity in Ethiopia, even in Eritrea. So the threat is not because we impose a new religion or a new ideology. It's been there for 1,000 years. How can it be a threat? But it can be a threat for him, for his power, because he's trying to impose a new ideology. When you become 12, 10 years, they have to separate from your family and has to go they call it, we have a camp, a military camp, they call it Sawa. So that
So
camp,
let me clarify just in case people can't hear. So when you become 10, between 10 and 12 years old, so 10, 11, 12, you end up going to a camp.
yeah, beginning from, you can say more like 12 to 15. That's the average, I can say. 12 to
Okay.
15, you have to go to middle school and to high school. So when you join to high school, first you have to go to Sawa for 1 year, 2 years. It's a military camp. They have ideology. They teach you about communist ideas, how communist is good for people, how religion, all this culture, trying to backward or trying to impose your idea. So they have to erase this kind of, we have this culture, we have this religion, Judeo-Christian religion, for a long time. So they have to abolish this kind of tradition first.
Do they openly tell the kids that they are learning communism? Are they openly told, or is it like here it's hidden? Nobody's going to openly say communism, right? But what they will say is, uh, you may have been taught old ideas, or you need to be more curious or more open-minded. So over there, do they actually tell them, we're going to teach you to be a communist because communism is right?
No, they don't. They don't tell you that. When you go there, they have, they call it political bureau or something. They have a ministry. You can say it's a new kind of idea or a new kind of religion for them, because they have to practice every day. And you cannot pray. You cannot even incite from prescription like Bible. You cannot say that. They have their own kind of routine. You have to get up at 5:30, 5 a.m. with alarm for everyone. So they have to run like a military training. So since 12, 15, 16 to 18, maybe after, if you are lucky, after 20 or 19, you can join to college. They don't have university at all, but we have a college. They call it a college. Even that college, they don't teach you the real education, but still a kind of communist. The rest, 80%, they have to stay, they call it national service for life.
That's the military, right? That's where they have to be in the military from the time they're basically 15 until they're in their 60s, correct?
Yes. Like 5% last time, last June, they say 80% they failed the exam, so they have to go military for life. But 20% they pass, which means they have to go college, maybe for 3 years, 4 years, they stay in college. Maybe they study education, they study some agriculture, nurses, doctors, whatever. But even that is not real education at all. But the 80% has to stay life life service for just for the nation. They call it military service. So you cannot.
So what they're saying is the people who can't learn and can't do well in college, they've given them another job, and that job is to be the military.
Yes, to stay military for life.
Military for the rest of it. They can't get out after 5 years like we can in America. Or I think it's the 5 years that you have to commit. They have to stay in their entire lives.
Yes, the entire life. You don't have even to decide for your life. Maybe you can go to another education. Maybe you make money with something else, or you
Like an
can just.
entrepreneur, there's no entrepreneurship. Nobody can have their own business.
No, the government control everything. The government has to give you the money. So the maximum amount you can withdraw money is like from, we have a local name, they call it NACFA, maybe $100 to $100. That's the
How,
maximum you can withdraw money from the bank.
for how long? How long is that $100 supposed to last you? A
Um,
month?
like if you have a wedding or any ceremony or celebrate something, you can have that kind of money, unless you don't. So the government has to allocate the national, any, like a bread. They have to give you a bread. You have to be in line, take a bread. They have
You
a
have to be
factor.
okay. Sorry, I'm just to make it super clear. So a lot of the work that I do, I want my students who are in middle school and high school, I want them to understand what's going on. So I'm going to try to repeat what I can only a little bit understand. I hope I'm not trying to be rude. I just have to explain it again. So you just said that even to get bread, you have to stand in line.
Yes, 100%.
Okay. And what about your housing? What is it like to live there? Do you get a nice house? Does everybody get a nice house, or is it like a hut? How do people live?
So no, you cannot have a house. The house may be built uh, 60 years ago, or maybe most of the house built in 1930s, 1940s. So
Okay.
there is no house for the last 40 years, 30 years, no house. The country is under siege, so they don't have any house. Maybe you can rent, but because they don't have cement, they don't have the supplies to make house. Like you don't have that kind of chance. So the only
No
thing they do,
cement. They don't even have cement to build a house, is what you're
they
saying.
don't, they don't, because the cement there was before 4 years ago, they closed it, so they don't have it.
4 years. Why did they do all of this 4 years ago? 4 years ago? 4 years ago?
40, 40.
40.
So what they do is they call it um, social engineering. Even explicitly, the Politburo, um, the chief, what they call it, the chief for, they have a minister call it chief tradition and for the regime. They have a ministry. So that guy, he was saying, his name is Zamarat Yohannes. So he was saying like, okay, we have this tradition for 1,000 years, but now we need to change the tradition. We don't know where we go, but we have to change it. We have to change. So when change happens, it cannot be smooth. It takes time. It creates chaos. It creates conflict between people. It's not fun. So, but we have to go this through maybe how many generations, we don't know. He even said it in 2015 when he was just he was like making diaspora in London. All this the diaspora use, they was asking what you doing, and he's saying, okay, we're doing this stuff. So for the nation is good. So in Eritrea, we have 80% is, as I said, they practice still Judeo-Christian civilization, what do you call it? Because we had a civilization 1,000 years ago, but that civilization, call it Aksumite civilization, it declined um, because there was conflict between the Islamic revolution and this tradition, they call it Judeo-Christian civilization.
So a
So
conflict between the Islamic religion and the Christian religion.
yes,
And
it's
is currently
seven.
who dominates currently now? You said 80% in Eritrea are 80%, but in Ethiopia, is it the Islamic religion that dominates?
In Ethiopia, we can say maybe 50%.
Oh,
50% they practice Islam, 50% maybe Christian.
and when you're
But
talking about Islam, are you talking about the more radical forms of Islam, the very like Sharia law, or are you talking about a more moderate Islam where the two religions,
in
is there a
Ethiopia,
way
we
that they get
still
together?
in Ethiopia we still don't have radicals, we call it, like in the West, but um, kind of moderate Islam. But
Okay.
they are affiliated with Al Shabaab sometimes. We have Al Shabaab in Somalia. So when the Al Shabaab said we're going to control the whole Middle East, even the whole Africa, the Red Sea, all this, they call it, um, we have to control this. It should be Islam. So they say, they celebrate that kind of rhetoric. So they say, okay, yes, we have to do this. So they're working with the government in Somalia sometimes and with the terrorist group, we call it Al Shabaab. But we don't have radicals in Ethiopia yet. But in
Okay.
Eritrea, we had radicals in Eritrea. They call it in 1960, 1970. They are part of the Muslim Brotherhood.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
and even Saddam Hussein, he was in Sudan in 1994, I think, 94, 95. So they call it a jihad. He was a leader there, but he was not famous because when you go to Iraq, he became famous, he became a leader, but he was in Sudan hiding in the villages, but he was a leader though. So they trying to create an Islamic state in Eritrea, but they could not do that because majority in Eritrea, still 80% uh, are Christians. So they defeat all these radicals and they cannot do that and they have to go to Iraq again. They practice in Iraq, they did it. He became famous, he became a leader, and he doing everything what he did last 20 years ago or 15 years
So
ago.
is the military that they're forced to be a part of, does that military um it doesn't teach them to be Christian, right? It takes away their religion, or is that just in the school and the education system?
It's everything because it's we had in 1960 we have in Eritrea they are Christians. Even the government is Christian, like a Christian regime, you can say, because like 90% they are Tigrinya, we call it ethnic group. They are Christians, but
How can they be Christian and communist?
that's a big question. I still don't understand why that happened because
Okay.
if Isaias Afwerki, the leader of the regime, he was saying like, all this Christianity is a kind of imperialism. We have to create a multipolar system. Now the United
A
States,
multipolar system so that
yes,
Christianity isn't the head of everything. And
yeah.
their Christianity is different than my Christianity, right? Like, so because you can use religion, and a lot of people do, just to kind of dominate other people, right? So you can be a leader and as corrupt as it gets, but you can go to church and say, I am a Christian, or I'm a Catholic, or I am this, or I'm that. And people will follow you because you share the same religion. even if their values aren't the same. Did I lose you? Oh no. Well, hopefully you'll come back. Um, I'm going to wait for him to come on back. But I think that it's really interesting and really telling. The few things that I've written so far is that they start these kids off in middle school. So do ours. Planned Parenthood's target is middle school. And I think that's really important that we understand that it's when their minds start to form, because those little kids, and yes, they do the same thing with children, because if you can raise up a child in the way they should grow, they will not depart from it. But when you're getting them at that emotional age and you're tapping into their emotions and teaching them what's right and wrong, um, not quite yet. I haven't seen him come back in yet. So when you are teaching them what's right and wrong at that very, very young age, or that very formative age, they will stick with it. They're at that age where they're stubborn. They're at their age where they're already prone to not believe what their parents tell them. And they've been separated. Mind you, he said from 10 to 15, they are separated completely. They have to go off to a camp. So we don't send our kids off to camp because most parents would not be okay with that, right? But what we are doing is sending them to schools where they are adopting these very, very socialistic, progressive ideas. And socialism, as some of my friends have said, is it's just the difference is a couple of months. So when you get to a radical socialism where you are already started to hate people, which they are, I really I want him to jump back on because I want to have that conversation about how in the world the Islamic and I'm just going to send him a thing again. How in the world the Islamic and the Christian get together and how they're moderate. Because from what I understood, there's a lot of killing going on in Africa, especially in the Congo. There's a lot of people who are being beheaded for their values. They're just walking into churches and doing that to them. We know that there's a lot of kind of sexual assault and things like that as well. So I'm just going to send this over to him again and see if he gets it. Hang with me, please. Here we go. Try again. I would love to know while we're waiting if you guys have any thoughts. Like, what are you thinking about what he said so far? Um, yeah, having to be in the military. Well, that reminds me of W.E.B. Du Bois and how he believed that only 10% of African Americans are capable of being in leadership. They're taking 20% and giving them leadership. That's another question I really want to ask him is how what do their lives look like? How much different are the doctors and the nurses? Because he did say that they're not really being educated. So, what are the difference in their quality of life as the quote unquote leaders, the experts, um, the established class, as opposed to the people who are just military? And I'm assuming, again, I really hope he jumps back on. I am assuming cannon fodder. And then I think it's important to recognize that they said social engineering. That's what we're doing too. Our social and emotional learning is social engineering. It's just softened. So it's a way that we will be willing to swallow as opposed to something else. So I'm just going to check again and see if he's getting my message. And if not, I will jump off and then I'll try to get him back on and see if he comes again. This makes me so sad because I think it's going to be a great conversation. I don't see any comments in the chat. Oh, and then I guess the last thing I will say while I'm waiting, hopefully, is that he said they tell them flat out, This is not going to be smooth. It is not going to be easy. There are going to be people who are problematic. If you listen to, say, Bill Gates, he says the same thing. Change is not going to be smooth. It's not going to be easy. So that is where we're at. I just got a ding in, so maybe he's coming back in. Yeah. All right, my friends, I am just going to end this round. And if he comes back in, I will start us again. Sorry about that.